We're at the Bebout Veterinary Medical Center, and I'm with Dr. Brandon Bebout. And if you've got a new pet for Christmas, well, it's about time to get in for a new pet exam. Okay, so who do we have here?
This is Lou Casey. Lou for short. Sweet little girl, full of energy, 12 out of 10. And one of the things that we want to talk about today is the new pet exam. Lou here is about 5.5 months or so. Lots of times we'll get pets in at 6 months for their spay, and their new patient, new client, and they say, yeah, they're fully vaccinated, they got their puppy shots. We say, well, when did they do that? And at 8 weeks, I got them from the breeder. Just like we know with our children and those that don't have children, I'm learning as we go. We got a 12-month-old. We get shots multiple visits, right? And so same thing here. We call them booster vaccinations. And so it is one of those things where 8, 12, and 16 weeks are kind of the ballpark on when we do them. Obviously, sometimes they come in a little earlier, they come in a little bit later. And so we will be boostering those vaccines. And really that 16-week, 4-month appointment, that's when we're getting our rabies, and we should be finished approximately about that time.
So you're vaccinating for rabies. Is there anything else then?
Absolutely. So we call it the 5-in-1. So distemper, parvo, corona, leptospirosis, and people say, well, we don't see that anymore, and we say the vaccine. And so we're keeping that to a minimum. Obviously, parvo is a big one that people think about. That parvo's in that 5-in-1, and then we just talked about respiratory, live on the Good Life, and so we're talking influenza is not a core. It is an optional one if that's something that's close to your heart. You board a lot, you travel a lot. That's something that I would maybe recommend. And then Bordetella, so that's the kennel cough vaccine, the true kennel cough vaccine that we also vaccinate for. And then if you're in Maine, upstate New York, you're probably getting Lyme vaccine actually. And so again, region specific. What is there a risk of, and where do we see a benefit in the vaccine?
Now, do you have to vaccinate throughout the dog's life, or are they ever fully just to that point where they never need a vaccination?
So, a really good question, something we get asked a lot. There is a point in time where we're going to say, you know, as long as you're here living and you're coming into the clinic, if you're boarding, we want to keep those vaccines up to date for the protection of everybody else. And then if you're somebody that says, I don't know if they need these vaccines, there is something just like in us where we do titers. And so we can draw blood and we can run to see, are you at an adequate amount? And so typically it kind of becomes a cumbersome thing and a cost thing where it's like it's just easier to vaccinate. Vaccinations are very, very safe in pets. There is a lot of misinformation out there on the web, and even by some veterinarians where, and I get it, you know, it's not something that we want to over-vaccinate, and so, you know, rabies after your second rabies, it's actually every 3 years, but then on the kennel cough thing, we want to do that every 6 months because we're seeing it before they get through that full year.
So if people get busy, do you send out reminders, or how do they
Absolutely.
remember?
Email, card in the mail, we like to do those reminders. I am somebody that likes to sync those vaccines together for that annual exam. There are some little tiny doggies that are a little bit sensitive vaccines, and we'll do them a month apart, do half of them at one spot, half of them at another spot, just kind of patient to patient.
So it's important to get your yearly exam, if not bi-yearly exam. It's just important just to be vaccinated and just keep an eye on the teeth. I mean, everything.
Yep, and that's part of that new pet exam. It's a long one, 45 minutes for me. You know, I like to talk, and we go over everything from behavior, potty training, what the vaccines are, when we're going to schedule that spay and neuter, which we just talked about, and then preventatives, flea, tick, heartworm, and then breed-specific things that we're going to run into, like teeth in tiny dogs, ACLs in our big dogs. Certain breeds carry certain things, and so we're going to all have that conversation then, and then that's going to get you a really, really good start for the rest of your life, and you're going to be armed with a lot of that knowledge that we have.
Great knowledge, great information. If you want to have a conversation, we'll share all the information, how you can get in touch with Dr. Brandon and staff here at Bebout Veterinary Medical Center. Stay with us again next week for another edition of Pet Doc.